Hello, everybody.
Hello, who is taking minutes this time?
I'll do it. I'll do it, Sue.
If you insist, but it seems like it's my turn.
No, I think you've done enough. How about next time you take, okay?
Sure.
My name's Carleen Hempel. I'm chair of the Junction Village Open Space Task Force. And we are meeting today with William/Bill Murray to talk about the final two or the two concept plans whittled from three. I just want to pull up the agenda and share it for just a moment so that everybody can see it, and then it's also on the record. So as you see, review of final two concept plans. And also we need to start, and we really do need a full house for this. So we'll do most of this planning when Harry is here, but we need to start brainstorming what we're going to do for our public forum, which is slated to take place on October 14. So with that, I am going to introduce Bill Murray, who is right there in the middle. And Krista has joined us as well. I'll take minutes. Did anybody get, I just sent everybody Harry's minutes today. He had sent them to me a few days ago and I didn't realize it. So I just sent them to you today. Are we ready to approve those today, or should I push it off a week?
I attempted to send you edits, Carleen. Did you get them?
I did, but I just got them. So
Right.
I haven't taken a look. Let's push them off to next week so that we have an appropriate amount of time to look at them. So I'm going to table approval of minutes and go right into introducing Bill Murray for his presentation. Bill, you have ability to share, so go ahead.
Okay. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is scheme 1B. I'll just, so what we've done is we've taken your comments, we've refined the schemes a little bit and more cut them down than some refinement, I think. We haven't done any new research on signage because it's really only been a week. We haven't actually had time. We did do some research on some benches because that seemed a significant thing, and we have a lot of benches. And we have some trash enclosures that you might want to consider. I don't know if we're actually going to do trash enclosures or not. And then we came across a new product that we need to investigate, but I'm pretty excited about, and I wanted to bring it forward. It's called Organic Lock, and it's being used right now at Walden Pond, and it's a stone dust stabilizer. And it does not need, it needs replacing or reinforcement every few years. What it does is it's sort of a gel that self-repairs when it rains, and it reseals the surface and makes the surface hard again. So it seems like it would be a really good idea. I reached out to the manufacturer. They've reached back to me, but we haven't connected. And I want to check it out at Walden Pond to see maybe we can in fact do stone dust trails here as opposed to asphalt, or maybe we could do some side trails. It would make them fully accessible. And as they say, it doesn't require somebody to come along and re-rake the stone or anything like that. So it seems like it might be a pretty neat idea to use on some of our side trails that aren't going to get a ton of foot traffic, but some foot traffic. So that's where we kind of stand with regard to that. So the scheme that we have on the screen in front of us is really just the initial entry that we had before. We modified it. We removed one of the small seating areas, and we expanded the wildflower, which is what the green areas are. We've left the entry plaza and the plazas for both the historic panels and the historic panels is below, and prison relevance above. Again, we maintained the We have 2 rail fencing going across behind the assisted living facility. We took out the assisted living facility from the depiction so that you could really focus on what we're showing. And I don't know if that was a good idea or a bad idea, but that's what we've done on these 2. We can always put it back in. I can't do it for tonight. I'm not that good at CAD. So what we've done is we've got the round amphitheater with connections to it. We've got a picnic lawn to its immediate south. We've got screening plantings both to the north and to the west. The intention of the west, of course, is to protect the assisted living facility if something's actually happening on the stage. We have a singular principal path running from the amphitheater all the way down to the connection over by Winthrop Street. The upper overview area is just simply a plaza. It's not going to have any signage. It's not going to have a seat wall. It's just a plaza to give you a place to stop, a place to gather outside of the amphitheater proper. The intention is that the amphitheater lawn would be able to be used for picnics or anything like that. Also, out of the amphitheater space, you could still watch the shows. Again, we have our sheltered nooks, the cauliflowers so-called, here and here with the westernmost one. The anticipation is that the assisted living facility would connect to the paths there. So they would have the use of that. We've unified on both schemes. We show the sumac grove to be maintained and in the same location. Again, the overlook with the kiosk and a seat wall, a little bit less formal art area, and a little bit less formal but more defined than our previous schemes. Plaza on the southern end with a bench and bike rack and the appropriate signage. So this one, we're emphasizing the active area in the triangle space and excluding the amphitheater. It's more of a passive space all along the river and connecting back. So it's we've really taken a lot of the fluff out of it and refined it down to a little bit more defined spaces. If we look at the amphitheater, we've got a couple of connections, one to the backstage, one to the amphitheater itself. Both of these would be an accessible path so that somebody who's mobility impaired, visually or otherwise, could get to both the seating area and the stage area. And we would anticipate that stage would be 2 to 3 feet higher than the surrounding amphitheater, using a very small, low block wall. And benches, and of course these little black dots are intended to be art displays that we're going to put throughout, because we think having them here and there is probably a pretty good idea. So that's scheme 1, which is really a modification of scheme 1 that we had shown you before, with a little bit of the enhancement in the round amphitheater. When we go to scheme 2, we've, as promised, we changed up the entry, but still using the same kind of components. We've got a principal entry. We don't show it, but we would like some sort of feature in the center, maybe like the Strawberry Fields concept that was talked about from Central Park. Over here would be the Civil War historic monument with the panels. Over here again would be the reflective space for the relevance of the prison. Our quiet space is kind of put between the two of these so that you could utilize that. And it's got multiple pathways, but it's got a defined pathway from the entry of the park all the way through to the major path. So again, we have a singular major path, not a lot of interconnecting trails. And if the design looks pretty much the same, because it kind of is a singular path with a couple of nooks, this one, the difference of this one is it has a recessed lawn with seat wall essentially all the way around, which would only be about 2 feet tall. And then the tan area would be a sloped area, because we're matching the grade of the ground and then going up to the adjacent grade. The pale trees that we show here and very much like the other scheme, this would be that savanna look that was discussed. We would honor the existing tree line because we want to keep the existing trees. But here we take all the underbrush out and we'd plant select trees, and we'd have a generally grassed area that you can see through to see into the recessed lawn, to see just a little bit into the tree line, but the tree line follows in here. And we would keep this forested area along the river as a deliberate design intent. So again, mimicking what we've done before, because this seemed to be passive recreation is really what you were emphasizing over by, over by the river. I'm using the same program to look at it as we did to render. So, and again, you know, an entry through stone walls into the southerly entrance with the kiosk and the bike racks and the rule signage and things like that. So not as exciting or dynamic as some of the other designs, but it addresses an awful lot of, I think, what you had discussed before. We've, on both of the schemes, we've increased the wildflower areas in scheme 1, but increasing the amount of buffering trees on both of the schemes. In here, the intent is we'd have a grove of small trees, maybe something like a crabapple or something that's relatively low and spreading, which creates a buffer between the main entry and some of these side rooms, as I refer to them, kind of giving you a little bit of a sense of, you know, exploration if you want. If you don't want exploration, of course, you can follow the main path all the way along and around. So that's the summary of the design. We've just refined pretty much what we did before and took out an awful lot of the program elements. And then we just wanted to show you a few more bench styles that might be compatible, as opposed to just, because we do have an awful lot of benches proposed on this, because it's a moderate walking trail, and we're going to have some mobility people that will want to sit. So some steel, they can be concrete, wood, or metal. We're kind of like that as a design element in the entry, and we could put a feature in the center. And then just trash and recycling, which we haven't even really gotten into, but we thought we'd give you some options so that you could take a look at that and see if there's something there that you would like. So that's the short presentation. The amphitheater is about a 60-person amphitheater. So it's not extremely large. We could make it bigger. We do have the space. And you all seem to like the round one as opposed to the octagonal shape. And the recessed garden has been made more rectangular, which matches the shape of the land that's out there.
Bill,
And
could you talk to us a little bit about the art plinths? I see some of them, but I just want to see what you're thinking and how you've clustered them.
Yep. So on the second scheme, we do have a strong cluster down in this area right off the path, which is already part of a meadow area. But we do think that having a feature here and a feature there and a feature here and a feature there would be, break up just lawn and benches and trees, and it would be a feature space. It would be a pretty coveted space, I would think. And likewise, on this one, we have a couple here as you enter the park so that you can't miss them. And they're just highlight spaces. Again, we do have some down here, but we like the idea of having some randomly placed throughout just to give you a sense of adventure. So this one emphasizes maybe there would be an art collection down here. And then here you could have varying different types of arts, not necessarily by the same artist, but it would be an interesting thing. Equally so, moving along here, we could still use these plinths as the storytelling. You could put the storytelling panels on the top of them.
Right.
And then could add a couple more so that they can serve more than one purpose at any particular time.
That's
I see.
terrific. Bill.
I-
Oh, go ahead.
I had been about to ask what happened to the story walk, which does seem like an interesting idea worthy of presenting to the public as an option. But yeah, I see you've kept that idea.
Bill, could you also walk us through the changes for grass? I see that on the left side in the meadow, the light green color, almost fluorescent green, is intended to be all wildflower meadow. Is that right?
It is, yeah.
Okay. On both plans, can you like put mouse over the places where you're imagining actual grass as opposed to the stuff, whatever's there now?
Yeah, we didn't draw that as well as we should have.
That's fine.
Certainly in the triangular space, the white space, we would consider grass. Maybe obviously we take the wildflower and pull it right up to the property line. But on either side of the path, I really would like to keep a mowed area simply because of ticks. And we really do you want to be able to walk to the edge of the path and not worry about a tick in the wildflower meadow would be a problem there. So that's that area we're anticipating grass or ground cover. And of course, under the trees, maybe we do ground cover, a shaded ground cover, and that would not be a walking space. Over here, we didn't draw it very well at all, but we are anticipating that this whole area around the amphitheater, other than the trees we're planting, will be grass, so that again, the savanna idea that you can actually sit under a tree and you can see the next tree and the next tree. I'm not advocating getting rid of any mature trees along the river. All of those trees should stay, but the undergrowth in this whole area should be removed, and there should be select trees, an evergreen hedge between us and the assisted living, an even more dense evergreen tree hedge between us and the prison and Route 2. But this area would be grass. Then it's very hard. I don't know that I can grab that line. I guess I can't. Actually, you know what I can do? Hang on for a second.
Bill, what does the undergrowth consist of right now out there?
Well, you have some ferns, but most of it's invasive honeysuckle. So the majority of the shrubs that are out there are invasive honeysuckle. And then when we go south, the majority are either multiflora rose or they're the oriental bittersweet. Tools, markup.
Well, Bill's looking. Carlene, did you get the photos I sent from Brister's Hill?
I did. I'm going to
Oh.
show those to the
Oh,
group,
okay.
and I sent them to the whole group, Krista, and then
Oh.
I'm going to also show them here. I have them primed on my computer. Bill,
Yeah,
while
and
you're, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, while Bill is pulling that up, I said at our last meeting that we should have lots more wildflower meadow because grass is so completely useless and bad. But I didn't mean to imply that all grass is bad. I'm thrilled having the wildflower areas expanded, but I agree that there are correct places for lawn. So I'm liking the way this is looking.
Bill, while you're looking for something, and before I forget, when we present this to the community, I would love some type of shading different from some sort of light tinted green to show where you're imagining some of the grass so that we can explain that to people. And also if we could have two versions of each plan where the one superimposes the actual facility on there, so we could just quickly click back and forth so people can I love looking at it without it, but I think we need to be able to show the community what it looks like with the facility.
Okay.
So maybe two versions of each slide, with one with the facility superimposed and one like this without.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important for the public to get an idea of how it will connect to the assisted living facility, but also to get a sense of it without. And if we can only have it one way, I'd rather have it with the facility than without.
Oopsie. That's
Oh.
great.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to mention, we talked to Walter about that earlier this week. And he does not want a connection to the assisted living facility.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
he was concerned for his residents getting lost, confused, all that. So he said that if they wanted to use the paths, that they would enter through the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail like everyone else.
Oh,
Huh.
Well, we have to leave that, we're crossing their property and we have to leave this area open because that's where the fire trucks come in. So there's going to be a break in the gates here,
Yeah.
anywhere. So the logical place for them, if they're gonna have a path, maybe we need to put a gate on their side. If we do that, then we don't need a gate on the other side or a fence on the other side. We do a one-sided fence. But so what I tried to just color in for you, that's the existing tree. That's the tree line that's going to remain. That pale green,
Okay.
that's all forested. And so that is what the intent of the design is. We have up here will be clear, essentially clear meadow with select trees. This is the forested area that's going to be the invasives removed, maybe some of the scrub underbrush removed, but it will be forested. And down here, of course, this is all pine. This is an awful lot of oak and mixed deciduous up in this area.
What
Next.
about the extreme far south of the site? We should make it clear to people what the plan is for that. Will it be invasives removed and allowed to be meadow, or the answer is it will be more of the same colored in green? Yep.
Yeah, so that is pretty dense woods until you get to the swamp. Somehow.
Yeah, and leaving it as dense wood is great by me. I just wanted us to be clear in our presentation about what it is.
Yeah.
Meaning you're not going to touch that, Bill, or you're going to take out the invasives from there too? And
That's really up to you. There are invasives, but they're not as endemic as they are elsewhere on the site, except the Japanese bamboo is right here.
Okay.
Just where the tree line ends, actually it's on the inside, just off of the wetlands. So that has to be remediated. You've got multiflora rows all throughout the sumac grove. And as you know, all along this edge, you've got the oriental bittersweet. And then up here, you've got the honeysuckle. That's an invasive species.
Krista, we don't have to make a decision today, but Krista, I'd love to hear your thought about that lower portion that Sue is talking about, that is that low area full of sort of scratchy stuff.
Yeah,
Right up
I thought I'll have to go back out and look at it again, because I thought that what Bill was just pointing to was where, well, I thought that we went all the way down to the trail. Oh no, but it is more
No, that it falls
grassy.
right off. It falls off, and it's pretty densely wooded there. Yeah.
Okay. Is that where all those red pines are?
No, the red pines are on the peninsula at the
Okay.
top of the slope.
Okay. I'll go take another look out there, Carlene, and think about
We
it.
should walk it, folks. We should walk it before, privately. We don't have to set a meeting date for it, but we can, little homework. Everyone should walk this site, I think, before we get to the public hearing, because, you know, with this scheme in hand, maybe just to start really be able to visualize it. I'm going to go to each of you and hear your initial thoughts about this, including Peter, Liz, Marcia, and Linda. I think Linda's on the line. Krista, do you want to start? You weren't here last week, so let me just orient you a little bit. What we decided to do was we went through your notes and each of us spoke to Bill about the highlights of what we wanted. We all pretty much loved version 1 of the first 3 meadows. And so Bill did a little bit of adjusting, but really kept the meadow to what was closest to version 1 of the initial 3. We decided that we wanted to show 1 amphitheater and 1 sort of just lawn concussion, because we felt like we needed to show people an option. And so that's why 1 has a formal amphitheater and 1 has the sort of I'm not using the right word. I see Sue laughing at me. Recess lawn. Recess lawn. And we said that we wanted definitely a couple of reflection spots, with the idea that people need a place to gather and be quiet. We wanted a larger gathering spot. We wanted, people really like the savanna, that you used that word, and we really liked that word. And also we definitely wanted some screening from the prison area. And we wanted 1 unified path. These were the things that sort of unified all of our thoughts. And we wanted to keep the art spread out throughout, no matter what. So with that, Krista, what are you thinking about how you see these two?
Yeah, I mean, I really like what's happened, or what's going on. I think we all like with the Endry Plaza there, and I like Harry Strawberry Fields idea. I think the idea of having things like engraving in the pavement that's one of the things I like about Brister's Woods, because it's I think it's sort of lower maintenance in the long run, and it's almost like the labyrinth over it behind the Methodist church on Pine Street. That's it sort of it creates a reflective feeling, like a meditative feeling, I think. So I like that. I started thinking about, okay, what does this mean for a conservation restriction? I think in terms of the riverfront part, I would still advocate for less impervious surface there. I mean, like I was looking at the 100-foot buffer, and it seems like there is still like a bunch of paving in the 50-foot and 100-foot buffer. I think I would even take out one of those little swirlies, the one that's closest to the river, and maybe even one of the overlooks, and just keep it really simple. What else? Yeah, I think those are my thoughts. And I think, Bill, you sort of said, it's not as dynamic and exciting, but I think I'd like to start thinking now about plant material, and I've done some of that here, but thinking about how we can kind of create more visual interest through the seasons, using, sort of inserting more native plants of different kinds especially if where we're taking out invasives and doing some restoration.
Okay, thank you, Krista. Bob, I don't see you on my list. There you are. Bob, tell us your thoughts.
Okay, actually, I think I like the one with the amphitheater better, but and I was never really sure what we were allowed to do in the conservation land, but this looks really good to me. So yeah, I think that it's really a great step forward to reaching some decisions here. So.
Good, thank you, Bob, and pipe up at any time. And just to remind everyone, we're not choosing an either or, and we don't need to get that far here now anyway. We're just trying to give Bill some ideas if he needs to tweak further for the public comments, which and we can still take elements from either to get to a final version. Sue, what about you?
I am really liking what we're seeing here is two different alternatives, and I think it's much better than it was before. I like it being more simple and pared down. I do have a few comments. For one thing, on the second scheme, there's that little collection of art toward the south of the sumac grove, but there's less of a cluster for art on the first plan, and maybe that's deliberate, but I wonder if it would be interesting to offer the public a collection of art plinths to the north of the amphitheater along the path, particularly by way of concentrating a story walk just in that little section. I don't know that that's what we'd end up with, but it seems like an interesting thing to offer, to think about it, plus to offer to the public for their comments. I've been thinking just now about what Krista said about less is more along the river. I, on the other hand, really love nooks and crannies for people to explore into and just have a little sit. But I was wondering if we only had one of the overlooks, and if we took out one of the little the fiddlehead that was closer to the water, rather than taking them out completely, perhaps we could say that one of them, they should, one of the overlooks and the fiddlehead should be paved with pervious pavement or stone dust, if that stuff Bill was talking about worked out, to make it less formal, maybe even closer to the path for the fiddlehead, just to have it be a little something where you can pull off and have a bench and a nice little sit and feel like you've escaped off out of the broader world and you can just sit under the trees. Did I have any other comments? Oh, well, I was wondering, Bill, you colored in the greenery, the forest to the south as a site, but you still left this thumb-shaped intrusion coming in from the bottom. I wasn't clear on why that is, but maybe that's some sort.
Down here.
Yeah, down there, there's a white patch
White
there.
part, Bill.
So
In
the
the
white
middle?
part, the white part of the swamp wetlands.
Oh, okay, all right. So that should be clear when we present it to the public, that the reason it's different is because it's a wetland,
Yeah,
which we're.
maybe we'll make it a different color, blue-green.
Yeah,
It
you
is-
know,
Doesn't
you
it
could,
drop
like-
off really steeply there too? That's where it kind of drops to the river, the floodplain below?
It certainly does in here. This is big and flat.
I
It's a
see the
flat-
contour lines and there's a sharp
plateau.
contour to the northeast of it, but
right here,
between
yeah.
the stuff, the forest on either side of it, it's about the same, it seems
Right,
to
so
me.
the red pines are on a low plateau adjacent to the river. It's very flat down here. This is moderately steeping, but this is extremely steep. That's why we have our overlook on it, because it's 5, 10, 15, 20 some odd feet above the river. And this is
Right.
10 feet, but this is all flat and moderate down here off of the, oops, it's gonna want to move off the
I
rail.
think it would be helpful for the public to have a few more labels, like we've got that handy dandy label Sumac Grove, but we could have a similar one saying Red
Sure.
Pine Grove and any other thing that might be clear in that way. Also, you might find it, there's no reason why the wildflower meadow needs to be green. You could pick some random wildflower color, like, yellow or orange or purple or anything, and that would leave you light green for the grass and medium green for the forest.
I like that idea. I like that
Sure.
idea.
Because we really need to make the colors reasonably distinct for the public to get it.
We can make it key. We can
right.
make it key. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just checking. No, other than that, I think the two meadow areas give us they cover about the same uses, but they look sufficiently different. I noticed we could also do some mix and matching if the public liked it. We could take the entry plaza from the first scheme and we could put it in the location of the one of the second scheme, but I wouldn't change anything right now. I think it's a fine way of presenting things for now.
That's wonderful. Okay, I'd love to give a few comments. I disagree about taking out some of the reflection areas on the right side. I feel like this is a unique and special space. And as someone who traverses trails almost every day of my life in here in Concord, there are lots of trails that are just a trail with beautiful vistas. And this is a special, unique property. And I really do feel like we have an opportunity here to create some special nooks and crannies. And to quote Sue, I'm actually going to quote you in the minutes to say, to have a sit. I feel like that this is truly, it's a different sort of space right off the village. And if everything is untouched in the middle, it won't look, it won't be as inviting as this idea that there's some passive recreation that can be happening here. I'm really glad we have the two plans that show both the not concussion. What is the word I'm looking for, Bill?
Reset.
Yes. And then
Recess.
also the more formal amphitheater. I really am glad that we decided to show both. And I'm grateful for the sort of, the Savannah type idea to go with what Kristen had said too. So I don't think I have any real changes to make. I just want to make sure that we're not pulling all of the features out of the right side of this park. I think it's important to show those and keep those and understand that we might have differences of opinion, but I think we need to show the two sort of ideas of maybe a simplistic one and one with some more, overlooks or sitting places, that sort of thing.
Well, if that's along those lines, then maybe we should ask Bill to differentiate it a little bit more in the central area of the park, because right now we've got the same two overlooks and the same two fiddleheads with maybe some slight difference in the tree placement and no more than that. And if we want to offer more variation to the public, then that would be a good place to differentiate a little more.
Bill, could you explain your idea for these little green, darker green spots again? Could you go over that again, what you're imagining there?
Well, the northern one is just a plaza. It's just a stop spot along the trail. We like its placement because it's just outside of the amphitheater. So if you were actually going to do a play and you wanted to charge people, they'd enter either here or they'd gather here. This is where you would put your drinks or soft drinks or whatever. And then this would be your viewing area. You were pretty specific that only one overlook was really required, one formal overlook with the kiosks and the marking and things like that. So yes, benches, yes, you could stop here, but no educational materials. The southerly one has the educational materials and actually gives a view of the confluence of the river and the brook. And it's at the very top of the slope that you virtually can't walk down, you'd fall down. So it is the appropriate place for an overlook. One of the comments I wanted to make is we can absolutely make these plazas permeable pavers. No problem. And again, if I can make the path a permeable product, like I'm trying to research, then all of it can be permeable pavers. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is permeable pavers cost a lot more to install than other kind of pavement. So just keep that in the back of your mind that certainly these we would consider to be some sort of a brick inlay material that would automatically be considered a permeable pavement. These we were considering to be a durable pavement because they're going to be high impact spaces.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, high impact makes me feel jittery. But I want to be clear though that I didn't I don't think that what did you say, Carlene? You used the term untouched, or I think that it's important that the area looks planned and cared for. So I'm not arguing that we should keep it untouched. And I really like Sue's suggestion of having those spaces to stop and reflect, but just being mindful of the sensitivity of that riverfront area. And I personally, I would like, I would advocate for spending more on lower impact materials.
Okay, I'm going to go down the line. Marcia, do you have any comments that you would like to share with the group?
Well, yeah, but I think this is presenting two different schemes, and that's what you want to do for the public. The idea of programming the amphitheater extensively is counter to the conservation restriction. And I think that you have to be really careful because the Natural Resources Commission is going to have to weigh in on that conservation restriction. And so I'm very, very concerned about how they will look at the amphitheater area. Sue's suggestion of perhaps providing some additional sculpture in that location, I think, is a really good one, and that makes sense for the story walk and everything else in that particular spot. And leaving the wooded area as natural as possible is really, really important, and simplifying. I'm not enamored of the fiddleheads, but I do understand the concept of creating space to sit and reflect and a little bit off the trail. And I think that can be done, but perhaps not as a little, to me, it's a little heavy-handed to have it so organized and orchestrated. So I would try to create a simpler area for these kinds of sitting and viewing and experiencing the outdoors. I do like the idea of bringing the building back in and the roadway back in, because there was a sidewalk along the driveway for the assisted living facility that had a connection to the path. And perhaps that's where we bring the assisted living people into this park area, because it's convenient for the residents and for the family members who might be with the people who are living there. And maybe I should be, and as far as the landscaping, the idea of a savanna, I understand that concept. I would like to see it also perhaps in the triangle area where in scheme 2B, the second one, I think, had you mentioned crabapple trees, and perhaps we want something a little more upright and a little more shaded. And then you're mimicking or creating that repetition along the path by having it in the entrance and then again along the path. So those are just some seat of the pants comments that I've
Terrific.
observed.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Marcia. Liz?
Thank you, Carlene. Thank you, everybody. One, I wanted to mention that the CPC article was submitted, and they are doing their site visit for this property on Saturday morning at 9:35. In case anyone wanted to,
And I'm going to be there to walk them through.
yeah.
Thank you, Marcia. I'm out of town. I didn't know that. I have to go to a bat mitzvah, so I'm sorry I can't be there.
I think that one thing that Marcia or her team had brought up some time ago was to talk through maybe an open space restriction versus conservation restriction. And I don't know what that offers or brings or what the real difference is there. Marcia's shaking her head, so.
Well, I talked with Delia today about that, and there's a recent case law that makes it more challenging. The open space restriction is not as enforceable and has actually been, to keep renewing it is not a viable solution.
Okay,
So
all right.
a conservation restriction is in perpetuity.
Perfect, thank you. So I think that these are two good, I think the suggestions are great. You guys are very detailed and focused and good, and some good ideas for how to present this to the public coming up. And I walk this area at least once a day, I'd have to say, like on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. I live right there. So I like all the spots and the kind of diversions that the park is looking to offer. I think that that's really, I agree with Carlene that how it's positioned between the village and then the coming Giroux Park, and right here is really just makes it a special place. And there's certainly a lot of people walking this area. There are those benches right at the right by the river. It's hard because we don't see them here. So there's, you sort of start there, like if you parked at the end of Harold Street, like you park, and there are those benches right by the river, and then you can come into here. And so I just think that I personally prefer the first version, the first one. I like the triangle in this one better, but whatever, that's not really the time or place for them. I do like the concept of the amphitheater, but I also hear what Marcia's saying, and that might really not be possible.
Okay, thank you
Thanks.
so much, Liz. Thank you so much. Peter?
I don't see him.
I think Peter had to.
Oh, he
had a
had to
meeting.
leave at 5:30, yes. If it's okay with the rest of the group, I'd love to hear from Pam Rockwell or David Witherby if they wanted to.
Oh, Linda Escobedo would like.
Oh,
to
I'm
speak.
sorry, Linda. You would have been next on my list. Sorry, Linda. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I too like both of these renderings. I prefer, and some really good comments have been made along the way. I too prefer the triangle in number 1. And I also, in terms of the other side and closer to the river, I hear the concerns about the conservation restriction. I do think, however, that keeping some of these features, even if the fiddleheads are less formal, is important in terms of how I anticipate various members from the community wanting to use this. And I also too noticed that the connection to the, again, on the river side of the rendering, to the assisted living, that path had not necessarily being shown in it. And I think that's important that it's that it's there.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so
And
much.
when I heard crabapple trees, all I could think of was the the problems with all the apples falling.
Yes. Yes, that's a big maintenance issue. Yes.
Yeah.
Pam, I see your video is on, so you're ready. Go ahead, Pam. Pam Rockwell, member of the community. Pam, could you state
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, could you state your address for the record, Pam?
1810 Main Street, Concord.
Thank you.
Pam Rockwell.
Thank you.
And so I'm actually concerned about the view from the river, and that this is part of the wild and scenic river system, and that I agree with the idea that we should be repopulating under these trees after we've removed the invasives with natural wild growth, and not just necessarily turning everything into lawns. And for that reason, I actually like the lawn idea better than the recessed lawn, better than the amphitheater, for the thought of the view from the river, that recessing that and having that be less of an impact from the water. And I also wonder whatever happened to the idea that there might be passive, that there might be a boat hookup, a boat access to this from the river.
That's not out of the cards, but it's very, very steep. Oh, sorry, Bill, you answer the question.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. We don't have any good place that you can, even with a canoe, access the river. The only place that you can do that is way down over here where the culvert is.
Right.
Okay.
And I think,
Other
if I
than
may,
that, oopsie.
no, I'm sorry. I'll let you finish, Bill. I'm sorry.
Well, other than that, you can't even get from this point here. It is just steep, 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 steep. And I flagged the wetlands there, and just walking down that embankment, the embankment's easily 8 to 15 feet, except at the lookout, which I said before is 20 or 25 feet. So yeah, we don't have meaningful access for boating.
Okay.
Yeah, we had thought of having a place where a boat could pull up and the people could just sit by the park in or right next to their boat, but we thought there's better places, honestly, along the river for that. Why do it here when, yeah. Oh, and I would also like to point out, Pam, that the amphitheater is also recessed. There's a natural depression in that area. So it is true that the amphitheater is a more formal space, but in either case, they would be they would be recessed about equally.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
What's located over there used to be, I hate to say it, but it's the old sewage leach bed open to the sky. So it's
Yeah, when I said it's a natural depression, I should have said it's an unnatural depression.
So we're taking advantage of that, the embankments and the low area. Of course, it's been vacant for decades. So it is already there, and we're just gonna kind of customize to it.
Okay. I'm just, again, my concern is the view from the river, and that even though it's steep, and you might only see tops of trees, that thinking about what's under the trees too is keeping that much more natural, much more local, wild materials instead of just grass.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no way anybody's going to be able to do meaningful maintenance of those slopes.
Right.
So whatever grows there, unless it's an invasive, will be an indigenous plant that's replacing an invasive.
I'd also like to make a suggestion going on from what Pam says, that in order to differentiate better between the two schemes, that we could more clearly show that in one of the schemes we would put in ferns, say on the slope at the northeast of the site, rather than clearing it entirely and just letting what grows come. That would give, first of all, people on the river would then see up into the existing trees, which, as you have colored it, we can now see that the forest there will remain. But second of all, if we clear out all those horrible honeysuckles and plant ferns, then that will hide the appearance of the lawn looking up the slope, and people will see natural stuff and some heads of people bobbing along.
I'm not sure, can we get, I'm not sure you can show, maybe we can just say that to people at the public hearing versus trying to put it more on the scheme. I don't know.
But no, we will do a clouded area and say naturalized planting,
Got it.
top of slope.
Okay. David Witherby, I don't want to leave you out. Do you have, hello, David Witherby, do you have a few comments to share? David, you seem to be frozen. Okay, well, David unfreezes. So folks, we are close to the 2 plans. Bill, do you have questions for us for any final tweaking that you might do so that when we come together next, we're really looking at what we present? I think they'd only be tiny changes, but I have it in my notes, but do you want to say anything to our group about any questions you have? And we'll send you this recording too.
No, I think what we'll start doing from this end is, of course, I'm going to get information on the stone dust stabilizer and see if I can't get something from the park rangers to say that they like it or they don't like it, it needs maintenance or it doesn't, because it sure sounds like it could be a win-win. We'll just start looking at plant palettes and start exploring a little bit more for the theme. We really would like, because one of the comments we had before was somebody's having trouble understanding a theme to move throughout. And I can appreciate that, but what creates the theme is the signage, is the various aspects of the project and the commonalities between the 2 spaces. And we're trying to link the 2 spaces, but one is intended to be informative, interactive, and the other is intended to be more of a passive recreation. Doesn't mean that we can't link the themes, but we want to explore that a little bit more to see if we can pull together some ideas. I mean, the storybook walk is going to be a cohesive thing that'll bring it together, I think, as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. David, I see that you're on frozen. I just wanted to give you a chance to speak up if you wanted to.
Okay, yes, my comment was, before I disappeared, that I am new to this whole project. And what I would like to do is to go back with the map in hand and this layout in hand and check it all out before I come up with some good idea. It does sound interesting.
Thanks, David. What's your do you mind for the record giving us your address?
195 Heathbridge Road, Canantum.
Road. Okay. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
So folks, I'm mindful of the time. It's 5:53. I think Bill has what he needs from us, and we can certainly maybe, I'm speaking for him, but do a little bit more tweaking if we have to at the next meeting, which is set for October 7. I'm just going to look at my, yes, so that's 2 weeks from now, and then the hearing is the 14th. So we could do some final little bitty tweaking if we need to on the 7th. I would love to show you all what Harry sent in case, Bill, will you unshare so that I can grab the share?
Yep.
While he's doing that, folks, I'm just gonna try, you cannot share. I'm just gonna see, and there it is. Let me just, why isn't it coming up? Hold on, folks. I think I need to click on it. And then, I'm sorry, I hate it when people's like, I'm fumbling in front of people. Hold on 1 sec, gang. I just want to show you Harry's thing because Bill mentioned it, and I also think it's a useful thing to show. I can't, for some reason, my computer is not recognizing it, unfortunately.
Do you want to email it to one of us?
Sure. It's this photo, with the way Harry embedded it, makes it, for whatever reason, I've been having trouble. Linda, do you have it? I sent it to you. Can you grab it fast? Oh, Linda isn't even on the call anymore. Oh, there she is. I just think it's worth showing, but I suspect I'm not going to be able to get it up. in any quick time. So, folks, in our last few minutes, Marcia, do you have it?
No, I don't have it, but what I wanted to add for information, the CPC presentation on the application is scheduled for Tuesday, November 9th at 8 p.m. And the meeting starts at 7, but the presentation on the Junction Village will be open space. It will be at 8 o'clock. And then their formal public hearing for all projects is scheduled for Tuesday, November 30th, beginning at 7 p.m. It's not yet determined whether it will be by Zoom or a hybrid or in person. So stay tuned on that. And I see there is a picture up of
Fabulous.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Bill, can you talk us through this a little bit for where you were thinking? Where I know what Harry thinks, but tell us when you were talking about the plans, where something like this could go.
Well, that would go on the triangular piece in the circular main entry. And we were thinking of having some of the thought processes. What was the phrase that we had there? Do you recall? Yeah, something. Well, I'll have to get back to you on it, but
I think
we
the
were
word was
thinking
hope. I think the word was hope.
Yep.
Hope. Yeah.
Hope.
Right.
Right.
And
So-
yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
No, that's all. This would be one of those focal points in the center. You could walk on it. It wouldn't obstruct anything, but it also can mean something. And because conveying the social justice without words is a very, very hard thing to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I love the idea. And that, if you can't read it, folks, that says imagine. This is the John Lennon, right? This is in Central Park. That says imagine. Thank you so much for whomever, Krista, thank you so much for sharing that. Folks, we're down to the wire. I think we need to do a little bit of brainstorming for the October 14th hearing. Not hearing, public forum. I can write a press release. That is something that is easy for me to do. What are other ideas? Whether they're sandwich boards or, reaching out specifically to different various constituencies. Please just throw out some ideas so that we can start thinking about this and formalize our process of making sure we get a lot of people there on October 14.
There's the West Concord Google group. And then I can reach out to the River Stewardship Council.
Is that
There-
River Stewardship Council? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could somebody make a poster or flyer? Or come up with some concept? I mean, my staff probably could do something really quick, but if we had something eye-catching or, we could then use it, post it in different locations, use it on social media, get it up, make posters for the sandwich boards that we're using for Porch Fest. We could do the little lawn sign things.
Isn't Harry like a graphic designer or something?
Yeah, but I don't want to speak for Harry, but he is very busy and not into making posters, and I respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could throw together something unprofessional and far less nice.
It's grassroots.
Bill had an idea, maybe.
Well, we have a couple ideas for the circular plaque. And maybe we'll try and work on those as a priority and send those around, because that could automatically become a focal point for a flyer.
Oh, what a nice idea. Almost like a little logo. I love
Right,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
I will take the list of all the people we mentioned in our CPC application, which is many groups. If you remember, it was probably 12 groups, and create an invite to those folks. So that covers a big group, but that doesn't cover the neighbors and on Winthrop Street. Marcia, I think you've yelled at me before when I've said, I'll put a flyer in everyone's mailbox. And you're like, oh, that's illegal. But how can we get the folks on Winthrop and Com Ave to sort of know about this?
Well, you can,
I mean, if you have
can't put
some,
it in their mailbox, but you can stick it in their door frame. It's just that the mailbox is USPS property. And I will drag out my list of the usual suspects from the West Concord Task Force days of all of the different stores that allow us to post flyers. Damn it, the 5 and 10 was about the best of the lot, and that's no longer an option. Plus, the libraries are good places to post flyers, and on the public notice board, no one will ever see again at the townhouse because we're all huddled in our houses.
Right.
But there's a bunch of places like that.
Good
And San
ideas, Liz.
Francisco-
So go ahead,
I was
Liz.
gonna say, if you had something that could withstand being outside, actually on the property prominently when people walk by.
Hmm,
As I say, there's a lot of people that go by there regularly.
mhm.
Also, there's now a kiosk of sorts at the Bruce Freeman, on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, right in the center of West Concord. So there's a place to put a flyer. I wonder if we can make something, no matter how terrible, in time for Porch Fest, because there's a lot of people going. I mean, it's 2 days from now, but there'll be a lot of people popping around for Porch Fest.
And I can't do it by Saturday, but once we have a flyer, we have a laminator at work, so I could laminate some and we could kind of stick them on site somehow.
Right,
Okay.
but if we just want to do a few for Porch Fest, just running something off right on a printer would be better than nothing.
Okay, the tricky thing about this is that we're not meeting until October 7, and that's too late to actually assign things. So without deliberating on email, I'll make a list of the things that we said today we're going to do, and I'll send it out, and then I'll send individual emails to people asking for help. Does that sound okay for open meeting stuff, Marcia? We're not going to be deliberating. I'm just going to sort of not be over assigning, but asking for help to individuals.
Right.
Well, and remember, logistics is not covered. It's making decisions. But deciding when a meeting is, for example, the open meeting law doesn't address.
Okay.
Marshall will correct me, but tell
Right,
us
right.
how
No,
much
no,
we can do.
So if
think-
I put a list of tasks in an email, Marcia, and say who can claim these, I can do that to the group and have them respond?
They should respond individually to you, yes.
Okay, okay. Folks, I think we're on our way to something that, again, is really special. Bill, you did exactly what we asked for. Thank you so much for your quick turnaround and your response. Does anybody have any final thoughts, concerns, or questions?
Slightly more differentiation between the two plans, because this is our big opportunity to get the people to say, I like this better, I like that better. And any place where the two plans are completely identical is a lost opportunity to let people choose. On the other hand, we don't have to make everything different, because that will just make it confusing if we give people too many choices. Still, let's not lose.
Bill, could we also make a slideshow of some of the elements and then have those go through in a slide fashion versus a sheet with 5 or 6 different things on it, like the Imagine thing, a type of seating, those sorts of things? Maybe we can work on that, or I don't know. Can we talk about that for the October 14 open forum?
A PowerPoint.
Yes, yes,
Basically,
okay. And I
like
can
a
work on
nice-
that and have it for October 7 to show you all.
A nice thing to do there would be like, give people a photograph of what are we, when we say Savannah, what do we mean? And yeah, that sort of thing.
Okay. With that, it's 6:04, and if I would love a motion to adjourn.
So
I'm-
moved.
Second,
Krista and Sue seconds. All in favor? Aye for Carleen.
I for Sue.
Krista.
Krista.
At 6:04, we'll adjourn the meeting, and I'll send you an agenda for October 7 and a note with some information about what's to come. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.